Hey guys, it's Yagmiyar from the Red Arrivals, and I'm here today to look at day 3 of the daily quests, and we're on Amani's Grove. Really the most important thing that I want to keep saying in all of these videos is make sure you start the daily campaign after you've lost a streak. So I typically these days am able to make it to either a streak 13 or 14 before I hit a pretty maxed out stronghold 15, and then I lose the streak. So as soon as I lose the streak and go back to 0, I queue up for the daily campaign. I know some people will say they like to dive a little bit more and lose several in a row at streak 0, so the base gets even easier. But all week this week, I've been starting the daily campaign as soon as I hit 0. And I've had pretty much either stronghold 9s or 10s that I've been facing. So been pretty easy here. Looking at the first base, we've got a Stronghold 9, Forvale as my dragon, and he's just going to take out this portal here, using Viscaria as my dragon, even though it's one of my lower nature ancients. But I just want to have a little fun here. You'll notice that I've picked one group of Maulers, two groups of Paladins, and two groups of Wardens. And since there are no Death Towers here, those two groups of Paladins are going to fairly do a fairly good job of keeping everything up and alive. So I'm not really concerned here. You're going to notice in this first one that I don't even really need to use spells. So just kind of hanging out here, dropping the first group of wardens, second group of wardens, and then I'm going to drop a paladin grouping with each one of those as soon as they get in range of defenses. There's my Maulers in the front to start tanking the AoE damage from the catapults. And there's the second ability from Viscaria to add poison damage to my units, which is a pretty substantial buff. So I kind of just hanging out here, taking things out. You notice that my paladins are taking some damage, but everything's healing each other pretty well, so no huge threats. The poison from the attack damage on the troops does add a poison onto buildings, as you can see there. So it does allow us to use the third ability from Viscaria to damage and remove that. So you'll see here I use first ability to poison up those buildings, and then third ability to remove it and do the good damage. And so, I was just using it on some buildings at the end there to help clear things a little faster. And just kind of being ridiculous. So we're going to go ahead and fast forward here. There's everything that we need, and I like to just retreat and cancel out because it tends to be faster than loading the victory otherwise. So there's the first attack. I'm actually going to go back home and switch dragons here. So we're going to go down and pick Viscaria. Level 15, not terrible, but seeing I got that dragon after the patch, I've had to use quite a few thousand Primus, and as you know, it takes forever to level these guys now. Alright, so looking here, the gold's a little bit higher, so maybe a little bit difficult base. Nope, Stronghold 9 still. We've got our blacksmith down there on the bottom, so that's where we're going to start out our dragon. Build up that timer for the dragon power as well as some initial mana. You'll notice that Viscaria only starts with 2 mana because of the level, unlike some of my other ancients. Since they're higher level, they sometimes even start with 5 mana at the levels that I have currently. Drop the 2 groupings of wardens again on the outside, group of paladins with each of them, and then they funnel towards the center. Maulers are tanking most of the damage here, minus the arrow launcher. And here we go, sweeping through with Viscaria. 1 and 2. Not really concerned about the damage output from defenses at this point, so just, kind of messing around. Poison buff on my troops. And we're just kind of waiting while these guys hack away at the buildings. The one thing I will say, by having one group of Maulers and 2 groups of Paladins, the DPS is coming out much slower, but even because of that, they survive quite well. So the question you have to ask yourself is, do I use defensive units and offensive units? Do I use a heftier amount of defense, or is it possible to use just DPS? In a recent clan matchup, we found that using 5 groups of soldiers because of their movement speed and attack damage and health were actually more effective than using any healers or tanks. So they were able to wipe out Stronghold 14 Sentinel pretty well so that we could get the Stronghold down. So keep messing around with your units, especially as you get things upgraded. Pay close attention to those upgrades on the soldiers and the maulers, paladins, and wardens. And depending on where you're at with those, you may want to change your troops around some. Right now, honestly, the maulers are one of my favorites, so I'm upgrading them first. But wardens have the most substantial DPS boost, so if you can afford it, I definitely recommend going with them as well. Soldiers are much more of a small incremental upgrade, but I still recommend doing that. And I've even seen some guys use raiders fairly effectively. Alright, so on this base, Stronghold 9 again, using my dragon to sweep over, poison debuff on a lot of stuff. Tanks are kind of going down here, but my wardens are still full health, still getting heals, so they're able to take everything out. Poison is on everything in the back there, so there's the third ability, wipes out about 4 buildings there pretty quickly. And we're just going to fast forward here as we wrap this attack up. So not as many troops left, but again, nothing to stress about. Just having some fun with an ancient that I haven't used very often just due to the level. So there's the complete campaign. Here's our chest, and I've pretty much gotten an elemental or primus from all of them so far, so no super high expectations here. Nature elemental. Alright, so there you go. There's the campaign, day 3, and I hope you enjoy.